Hey YouTube, Alex here, and in today's video I want to talk about the fact that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and why, if you're aiming to make travel a part of your life, it's worthwhile to reach out and make friends with people with travel experience. You might be pretty surprised, but there could very well be some older people in your community that when they were younger, perhaps their health was a bit more consistent, then they traveled a lot. And so one of the issues that I ran into with considering travel is some of the people that I thought were good for me or looking out for my best interests were deeply selfish and unpleasant and unhappy people. And so when it came to mentioning travel ideas to them, or the suggestion or idea that I might want to travel, then they tended to be extremely critical, dismissive, not supportive, trying to pull the whataboutism, the what-ifism, and really just slowed me down and didn't really get what they intended to get done. So kind of talking more on that subject of you being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, well, if 4 out of 5 of your friends have never traveled west of the Mississippi River or outside of your home state, or then you really need to consider that they may not be who you need to be spending much time around. They may be people that really just don't belong in your life in a significant way. And some of these people may be people you're really, really close to, but you got to understand a lot of people in America especially live in fear. They operate on the premise of fear. They constantly assume that whatever the worst possible outcome is of any given situation not only can happen with consistency, but is likely to happen. They try to use this fear to control you as well, because people that are afraid, they want reinforcement of that fear. Not people, just people that are randomly afraid. People that live in fear out of choice. There's a difference between living in fear out of choice and living in fear out of lack of choice. Clearly, if you're growing up in a conflict zone, if perhaps there's some kind of violent issue toward your people, then certainly you have reason to be afraid, and for a good reason. But there's plenty of Americans that have nothing to be afraid of, or have very little to be afraid of, but they still want to operate on that premise that there's a lot to be afraid of, and that they should just stay at home and do nothing. And that's just the sad truth of the matter. Some people will say, oh, what about money? The people in question are retired. The people I know are retired and have been since they were in their 50s. Some of them are still in their 50s and don't really, finance is not an issue. They even brag. Many of these individuals will even brag about how much money they have, or how much money is in their bank account, or how much real estate that they own, or all kinds of superficial accomplishments that frankly aren't going to make an impact in the long term. So actually I made the poor decision of spending too much time around some of these folks, and it really set me back in some of my travel plans. But the good news is I still have more time to travel, and I figured this out relatively early, but you need to do that as well. If you've brought up the idea of traveling to different people in your life, I don't care if it's your mom, your dad, your grandma, your uncle, your best friend from high school, whoever it is, if they actively discourage you and try to pull the whataboutisms, and you've done plenty of research, you're not going in this in the dark, but you really have thought this through and thought about where you'd like to go, how long you'd like to stay, your budget, these things, then you really need to just distance yourself from these people and make it clear to them that travel is a larger priority for you than your relationship with them. Because frankly, people come and go. Most people will replace, if I'm not mistaken, half their friend circle every 5 to 7 years, and you probably know this in your own life. I've replaced a ton of friends because we simply weren't headed in the same direction. And when I talk to other people that are mutual acquaintances, I'm like, oh, that was a good decision. Those people haven't really done anything in the interim. So that's something that you really need to be careful about, is not getting around downers, people that are they say nice things. They'll use words that seem to indicate that they're looking out for your best interest. But the reality is they're looking out for their own interests. A lot of these people are really lonely. They've done a lot to isolate themselves, to push people out of their lives, to use anger to try to control other people, to use fear to try to control other people. And they're people that fundamentally, they're latched onto you because they think that they can somehow continue to negotiate the relationship in a way that benefits them. And yes, some of these people might even give you money or attention or little knickknacks. Maybe they buy you dinner or they help you out in some way. But if somebody's actively opposed to some of your bigger goals or ideas in life because it means that you'll leave them, then that's something that you need to really be aware of and be on notice for. Is I found people that they said they wanted to help me, but when it became apparent I would exceed them in a professional way, all of a sudden the resentment turned on. A lot of people, they want you to do good. They don't want you to do better than them, okay? That's something you need to remember. They want you to do well, just not better than them, because if you do better than them, then likely you'll move on to different echelons of people. You'll be earning more money. You'll find yourself in different social circles. You'll have better mentorship. Your life will all around go better, barring random tragedy or accidents. And I'm not going to say those are non-issues. Certainly I know tragedy too well, but even through my tragedy and through the sadness, I continue to push forward and meet new people. And I'm at a point now actually where I don't really feel as strongly about needing to replace some of my friends. I'm getting close to 30 and I've cut a whole lot of people out of my life. So the people that are still around are people that I've tried to attack from every angle. Not attack them, but like try to figure out, are they really, and there's never a time when they get short with me. There's like maybe one or two times, but each of those times I needed that push. And it was in a healthy way, in a private way, in a way that I grew stronger from our interactions. But these other people, these toxic people, they just drain all my energy. They just make it such that I don't have that fire that keeps me going every single day. And so you have to be really, really cautious with that when it comes to who you have in your life and really what kind of effect that they have on you, your productivity, your happiness, your fulfillment, your life plans and choices, because life is short. And that's what I really want to drive home here is a lot of these people will say, oh, you just need to do what I say for just another year or just another 6 months. And it turns into 10 years you've made poor choices based on the recommendations. As an example, my stepdad, who I no longer speak to, he told me 10 years ago Bitcoin was a scam. Naturally, you can understand why I might harbor some resentment or dissatisfaction toward him and why I'm no longer on speaking terms with him. If he had his way, he would threaten and attack me every single day and blame me for his problems. And I don't mean to say all this or talk about all this to get on a super negative tangent, but ironically, travel isn't necessarily for me only positive. It's not only the experience of positive feelings, of creativity, of meeting gorgeous women, interesting people, etc. For me, it's also alleviating the pain of being stuck in the Midwest. I didn't really like living in that region, except for a few friends. I really don't like the culture, don't really care for a lot of the people that live there, and that's based on my own personal life experience. I know some people have really much more positive experiences there. They do have friends and family there, people they get along with. But as far as my individual experience goes, then I've found it necessary for me to even maintain a growth mindset to get away from that, to get away from those people, and to really be in a vacuum where I can focus on bettering myself, improving my life, because these people don't care about my background. They don't care that I'm not going to get a big inheritance. They don't care that I don't have some kind of long lost uncle that's going to bless me with good fortune or whatever. That basically in my lifetime, so I'm 30 now, I need to make a lot of money in the next 20 years, 25 years. That's not my only goal, but realistically speaking, I already feel my body slowing down, and those people don't care. They're not going to be around 20 years from now. It's unlikely. They make a lot of poor health decisions. That's just the facts, that if you make really bad decisions in regards to your health, it's probably going to have a negative impact on your lifespan. But anyway, that's beside the point. I just want to mention that you really have to think about yourself, and not just where you are today, but where those people are today, and how much time they've had to change their situation, and how much time they've had to dig the hole deeper and bury themselves in situations where they're really just miserable and they want other people to be miserable with them. And ironically, here I'll give my grandma some credit. She's a toxic person, but I'll go ahead and say it. She told me that whenever my grandfather would go off on a deployment to Korea or Vietnam, she never worried, even though he was literally going in the jungle to take out other military operatives and not for dinner. Then she said, "I just knew he could handle it. I mean, I'm not really worried about that part of his job." I think she had more concern that they'd have to move periodically than she did about his ability to handle those circumstances. And she was right. I mean, he had a 20-year career in the military and a 20-year career in the police, and neither directly led to his passing. And that's another story I'll tell at some point. It's really sad. My grandfather gave his life for me, and I definitely want to share his story because I think a lot of what I'm doing now is a combination of me attempting now to honor his life and his sacrifice, but then also to combine that with meeting the right people, replacing all these toxic people in my friend circle with people that are really good. And I managed to do that. I'm starting to get a lot of momentum. And so, yes, I want to thank all of you for watching. My name's Alex. If you haven't yet already, definitely subscribe to the channel below. Give me a thumbs up. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you next time.